Holy, sincere indeed are the words of truth that one is grasped, never to be abandoned. The right Dharma, all surpassing and wondrous. Hear and reflect, and let there be no wavering or apprehension. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Well, good morning. I hope everybody is doing well on this nice sunny summer afternoon or summer morning. And I hope everybody is doing well and drinking lots of water amidst this heat. My son has started to go to a Japanese summer camp out in Cupertino, so it's really far. But San Jose Betsuin has been kind enough to loan us an office, and so we've been kind of saving the commute time by kind of hanging out there, and it kind of gives me a chance to see what restaurants are out there too. And so it's very nice out in San Jose. But so something just to kind of get right into it today. Lately, I've been watching some documentaries and on YouTube and different things talking about different social issues going on in the world today. And one thing that I noticed was how kind of these news segments that talk about religion in this country. And it didn't really occur to me until just recently, but I think how Jodo Shinshu defines religion and how the Western world defines religion are two vastly different things. And so I'd like to kind of talk about this a little bit today. So when you think of religion yourself, what do you think of? What do you think of as your religion? So the dictionary that I have defines religion as the following. It says, quote, the belief in and worship of superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods, end quote. And so I think for the most part, we have a general same notion of what that definition. But just to add to it a little bit more, we might think of religion as a set of guidelines that tell us how to live in this life. And if we do not follow these rules, we are punished or somehow banished to some place of damnation, right? So we have to live moralistic lives that follow a set of guidelines that is supposed to help cultivate our spiritual selves. And when we prove ourselves worthy by following these ethical guidelines, then we are rewarded by having access to a world of bliss and happiness. One more characteristic is that when we find we are in trouble, we can ask this superhuman god or gods for help through petitionary prayer. This will help to address our needs and to ask for guidance in this world that can otherwise be overbearing or maybe perhaps tempting. So more or less, we define religion in these three terms, which I'd like to share with you. Let's see. Is it this? Is this one? Can everybody see this? Okay, so religion is about an omnipotent God or gods that control this world and universe. Number two is we are expected to follow a set of ethical standards as a condition for reward in the afterlife. Okay, so ethics. And then number three, we can seek help and guidance through appealing to God or gods through the act of petitionary prayer. Okay, through the act of petitionary prayer. Okay, so those are the three kind of guidelines that I think we have. So based on this definition, Jodo Shinshu then is not a religion, right? Nor does Jodo Shinshu define this to be a religion. So in the eyes of Jodo Shinshu, this standard, the definitions that I just gave you above, they're called in Japanese hoben, or it's in English, it's translated to kind of a technical term called expedient means. But basically, all it's saying is that this is not the final teaching. This might be a stepping stone to get to the final teaching, but it's only an expedient means, and that's what's referred to in Buddhism. So today, I kind of want to talk to you about number three. I want to pay close attention to number three, but I will address all three very quickly here. Let me just pull that back up here real quickly. Okay, so regarding number one, religion is about an omnipotent God or gods that control this world and universe. There is no, in Jodo Shinshu, there is no higher power that is all powerful and judges whether we are good or bad, good or evil. The only thing that quote unquote controls the universe is the law of karma, okay, karma, the law of cause and effect. Everything in this world is determined by causal condition. In other words, through interconnection and interdependency, all things are interlinked and affect each other through a chain of occurrences. Some people will call that phenomena God. Other people will call that phenomena causality. But we as Buddhists call that karma, okay? So the second point, we are expected to follow a set of ethical standards as a condition for reward in the afterlife. Okay, so ethics, you have to be a moralistic person. Okay, so regarding this, and this one is what my dissertation was based on, but ethics is, from a Jodo Shinshu standpoint, is not something we can do, or at least we cannot do it completely correctly. Okay, so the reason why is, even though we might have the logical capability of coming up with ethical rules and why we should follow them, we almost never do. We never do, only because of the simple reason of our attachments or blind passions. Our attachment to ourselves, to our egos, is the sole reason why we cannot follow ethical rules to the T. Okay, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be ethical. We should try to be ethical, but it means that from a Jodo Shinshu standpoint, even ethics is impermanent, meaning it is subject to change. And anything that is subject to change in this world is not truth. Truth is permanent. Ethics is not. Because ethics is not truth, then that is not the way to find true spiritual salvation from a Jodo Shinshu perspective, okay? Okay, so number 3, which is the one I want to focus on today, we can seek and help guidance through appealing to God or gods through the act of petitionary prayer. Okay, so the issue of petitionary prayer is what I want to talk about. Regarding this, seeking help and guidance through prayer would be fine if we knew what kind of help and guidance we needed, right? But unfortunately, because of our blind passions or the attachment to the egocentric self, we always think of help and guidance in terms of how to help aggrandize this ego self, how to cater to this ego self. In other words, the kind of help and guidance we want are almost always selfish motivations. I want a better job. I want a nicer looking car. I want my sports team to win over the other sports team. Why couldn't my husband be more handsome? Right? Why couldn't my wife look like that actress? Right? I want a bigger house so that people can see how much clout I have. Right? I want to wear nice suits so people will think that I'm a person worthy of respect. Right? Et cetera, et cetera. Every day we have wants. We are never satisfied. You know, it's kind of like corporate greed, right? Right? Corporate greed is not some entity outside of us. Corporate greed is the culmination of human selfishness and egocentricity on a macro scale. So when we say that global warming is caused by corporate greed, what we really should be saying is that global warming is caused by corporate greed, but we are that corporate greed, right? So we shouldn't get it twisted, right? We are the very content of corporate greed. Corporations aren't something we can point the finger at and say they are the bad guys, right? They are us, right? And we are them. Corporations wouldn't exist if there weren't us. And I can't believe I'm going to say the following words, but corporations are people, my friend. Well, that's what Mitt Romney is said to have stated, but that's a whole different other story. But anyway, but yes, we are part of this corporate greed, right? So, but anyway, getting back to my point, we are never satisfied, right? So when something does go our way, or when we don't get what we want, we employ petitionary prayer as a means to appeal to a higher source, to try and get something we want. It is wishful thinking. So sometimes we get what we want, but sometimes we don't. But the essential premise of petitionary prayer, where we ask for something like material wealth, health, or spiritual forgiveness, even through confession or through good acts, these are all based on egocentricity. And this is why in Jodo Shinshu, we do not pray in this way, okay? We are not asking for forgiveness in this tradition. When we go in front of the Buddha and put our hands together, we are not asking for forgiveness. We are not asking for material health or wealth or health or these kinds of things. In fact, all we are simply doing is affirming our embracement by the world of truth. And we do this by saying Namo Amida Butsu. So I know what I said was a lot to take in. Right? There's a lot of kind of concepts that I used. So I'd like to kind of try to use an example to help what I'm talking about here. The difference between this religion, Jodo Shinshu, and many other religions, I think, is the difference between an invoice or a bill, okay, on the one hand, invoice or a bill, as opposed to a receipt, okay? So in Japanese, the two terms are seikyusho, right? And then ryoshusho, the two difference, okay? Seikyusho is an invoice, okay? And then the other one is receipt. So I will talk about this difference here. So an invoice or a bill is a document that lists all the things that you have done, all the services that you have provided, right? I gave money to charity. I donated my time to an animal shelter. I opened the door for some obachan lady at Nijiya Market, right, the other day, right? I made sure to make dinner for my kids. I took the time to listen to sensei's boring messages, right? Et cetera, right? So no matter how small or how big of a good act we feel we did, we are tallying that up in our heads, right? Right. And then what we do is when we want something that we can't have, or we want something to go our way because we are currently not happy with the present state of conditions, then we pull out that list in our heads, right? And then we attempt to cash in and we begin to negotiate with gods or what have you, right? We say, well, as I was a good person, I mean well, I didn't steal, I didn't cheat or hurt when I could have, right? See, I deserve that new house that's on sale, but someone else is putting up a slightly higher bid, right? Maybe God, you can persuade that couple to move to another house, right? That's one kind of thing we might think. Or maybe another way we might think is, I deserve to get that promotion, right? I had to put up with so much at this company over so many years, right? So that's another way we might think, right? We are negotiating, we might even demand, or we plead with, and we attempt to cash in through our tally of good things that we've done or we believe we've done. And it's natural to do this, right? The rest of the world operates in this way. So why wouldn't religion operate in this way either, right? One more example I can give is, I believe in you, God or gods, so that is why I deserve to be saved. I am a good person. I deserved to be secured a good spot after I go, right? So you see, this kind of way of thinking is very common, but this is not true religion in the eyes of Shinran Shonin. This way of thinking is contingent on whether you get what you want or not. And this is how many people define religion, unfortunately. There has to be some benefit provided to this self in order for me to believe in this religion, this God, these gods, this way of thinking. I do this and I get this, right? So this kind of way of thinking is the invoice religion, okay? Seikyusho, invoice religion. On the other hand, Jodo Shinshu is the receipt religion. It is the ryoshusho religion, okay? And I'll explain what this is. Amida Buddha or Shakyamuni Buddha does not grant our wishes in terms of material wants or worldly benefits. We do not seek the Buddha to hear our voices of petitionary prayer. Rather, Amida Buddha seeks to have his wish for us be heard, okay? So Amida seeks to have the Buddha's wish for us to be heard. The Buddha seeks to have the Buddha's wish for us to be heard, okay? So Amida Buddha is telling us, awaken to this egocentric self that constantly has wants in this life and is never satisfied. You have to awaken to this true self that you are. So I'd like to kind of show you another example here. So in this first, on the top one here, this is the invoice kind of religion. The self seeks to be heard through petitionary prayer by God or the gods, okay? Whereas in Jodo Shinshu, which is this bottom one, Amida, the arrow flips completely in the opposite direction. We don't go to God or gods or the Buddhas, right? Rather, Amida Buddha comes to us, okay? Amida Buddha comes to us and says, hear the Nembutsu, hear this calling voice. Hear the words of absolute truth that embraces you as you are, okay? And that the arrow direction is very different. That's why these two religions, or Jodo Shinshu and many other religions, are vastly different from each other, okay? The approach is very different. How we define religion is very, very different, okay? Okay, so Amida Buddha then places no conditions on us. There are no requirements. There are no standards to meet. All we have to do is simply awaken to the truth that embraces us. This is why it is referred to as a ryoshusho, as a receipt, because our path to spiritual liberation is already completed. The receipt is being provided for you simply to inform you of this truth. There is nothing on our part that we have to do other than to awaken to this truth and how difficult and rare it was and is to have occurred. All we need to do is accept this receipt with our whole being, or what we say in Japanese, uketoru, uketoru. Okay. Amida Buddha has completed everything for us already. So when we truly receive this receipt and realize all of the causes and conditions that were necessary in order for this receipt to be completed, all of our ancestors who came before us, all of our past friends and family in the past or now even into this day, the society and the world we live in, even the strangers, right? The people who provide gasoline in the gasoline stands or the grocery things that when we go grocery shopping, all those strangers, the plants, the animals, the trees, the air that we breathe, everything had to have come together in order for us to be able to awaken to this truth. And because of that, we become grateful for this life and everything that we receive. Everything about this life is about us receiving. And that's what Jodo Shinshu is trying to get us to understand. It's trying to tell us, stop making demands and sit back and look at all of the things that have been provided to you already. And that is nothing short of arigatai. How difficult is it that these conditions have come to be, but here they are now, okay? So that is the difference between Jodo Shinshu and many other religious traditions, especially concerning petitionary prayer, okay? So we do not engage in petitionary prayer. When we go in front of the presence of the Buddha, all we are doing is affirming that we are embraced in this world of truth and that we are connected with the world of truth through the Nembutsu. Okay, and with that, I would like to end today's message. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. Holy, sincere indeed are the words of truth that one is grasped, never to be abandoned, the right Dharma, all surpassing and wondrous. Hear and reflect, and let there be no wavering or apprehension. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.